Hi, I'm Burke MacDonald with Schaumburg Heartbeat. We're over at the Al Larson Prairie Center for the Arts, and we're at a photo exhibit with the Schaumburg Area Photographic Society. I'm going to be talking with Greg Paxton. He's the president of the organization, and I'd like to welcome you to Schaumburg Heartbeat.
Thank you.
All right, come on in a little closer because they want to see the background photos too. What does the Schaumburg Photo Club do? Obviously you work with photography, but what else? What do you specialize in anything, or?
No, the purpose of the group is to work with colleagues that have mutual interest in photography. The primary aim is simply to have fun. And toward that aim, we go on outings, we have club workshops, we do some volunteer work, wide-ranging set of activities, but the aim of the club is to have fun.
Now, if I just work, or my wife just works with point and shoot, is that okay?
Absolutely. Many of our images, our photographers are using 35mm DSLRs at this point, but as you know, camera phones are pretty popular. Everybody's got a camera phone.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And as an example, a couple of the images that I entered last year, I actually took with a camera phone and won an honor. So any kind of camera is fine.
You meet twice a month, right?
That's correct, on the second and fourth Mondays of the month.
And some months you have competition that's among yourselves.
Yes.
And how do you decide what to compete for? What type of topics do you have for competition?
Well, first of all, the primary objective of the competition is to help photographers understand how to improve their images. Toward that end, we have different categories. We have small monochrome, small color. And within that category, anything is fair game. We also have special theme competitions where we'll select a theme for a category, and that's the purpose of that is to get photographers out of their comfort zone and shoot something they otherwise wouldn't shoot. For example, this competition at the end of January, we're shooting night photography. Many people don't venture out at night. It presents a whole different set of challenges.
Oh, it would, yes,
so
the lighting.
We have a special category just dedicated to night photography.
Now, I understand the group has a member helping member philosophy. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Our members represent a wide range of skills, from the professional to the novice. And the people that are more advanced, they provide training. We may do some one-on-one mentoring, small group mentoring, things of that sort, to help the novices develop their skills. Novices may be trying to achieve a certain kind of effect in their image, but they may not know how, whether it's a camera or post-processing. So the senior members help the more junior members develop their skills.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. And on these, because I know one of my neighbors is a member of the club, and he mentions that of going up to what's the county up in
Door County?
Door County up in Wisconsin, and going to the zoo. And that's another place where the more experienced photographers can help the more amateur photographers learn techniques, right?
Absolutely. We conduct field outings where a group of photographers, anywhere from 2 or 3 up to 8 or 9, will go out to a particular venue, and we'll explore different angles, different perspectives on a particular subject. We may be able to help novices with their exposures. In bright sunlight, for example, bright whites and dark blacks are a particular challenge to capture in photography. So we use these outings as a way to have fun, get out into the open, and again assist more novice members.
And you always guarantee good weather.
Actually, this Saturday there's a program in Chicago on fall weather photography.
Oh,
Given
yes.
the ice storm, I thought it was the timing.
How
was
did they pick
appropriate.
that? But okay, we're going to look at some photos here and have you make some comments on them, and hopefully the professionals won't say, what are you talking about? You know, that's pretty basic. But for a lot of people that are listening, I think they're people that are trying to learn how to take a nice photograph that they can enjoy. Okay, here we're in front of an African lion, Alan Cox is a photographer. This amazes me. You can see each individual hair on here. I mean, obviously he couldn't have been that close to the animal, so I imagine he had to use quite a lens to get this, right?
I'm sure he used some type of a telephoto lens. I don't know where this was shot, probably a zoo. So he, as you pointed out, had to be at some distance. Again, this is a case where he's using good equipment, probably very good lenses, but his technique is excellent because you've got good depth of field from the whiskers on the front of his jawline back to the hairs on the ears. The other thing that's interesting about this photo is his eyes.
They are amazing.
His eyes draw you in to the photo, and you think that he's looking directly at you.
Okay, why don't we take a step back, and we'll go right to it's called Bygone Station. It's by Nancy Hassman. This thing, the different colors in that, how much does using software go into coming up with some of these award-winning type photographs?
Well, software is a key element to all digital photography. The major camera manufacturers will even advise you that you need post-processing to really enhance the output of the digital device. In this particular case, I think the colors work extremely well because she wants to convey the sense of age. And you've got the rusty stoves, you've got the worn dark woods, but yet you have a pop of color in some of the furniture and the fire extinguisher. The other thing that's important about this image is the angle. You have a sense that you're actually walking into the image on an angle. Very well done. And there's a great deal of detail, both in the foreground and the background.
There is a lot. Well, you could even see the detail in the ceiling. It's a wood ceiling that has a lot. It looks like a lot of texture to it.
Yes. In this case, one of the key challenges is the exposure, because in a room of such as this, you would expect it to be fairly dark, but yet she captures a good exposure on the outside, which means that she probably used multiple images, or she somehow enhanced the image in software to be able to balance out the exposure.
But for an amateur that's just doing this that doesn't have the software, that's a good point. To get the photograph that you're going to turn into the competition, you're probably going to pick your best one of the series that you took. So if you're just shooting out there and you want to try and get some good shots, take it at various angles, take it under various lighting conditions and so on, and take your best one. The people are not going to realize you took maybe 10, 15 pictures to get this one good one, right?
Exactly. Most professional photographers will tell you that they take a whole series of photographs, as you just indicated, and they'll choose the best one or two and throw the rest away. So the yield rate isn't particularly high.
Okay, we're going to be looking at the definition of hope, Alan Cox. Here's another. This is a black and white photograph. And what's going in the mind of somebody when they're trying to shoot and they decide between using black and white or using color?
Well, it depends on the photographer's vision. In this particular case, I would imagine that Alan was thinking about the decay. This conveys a sense of age, decay. Black and white is great for that because you get a sense of age. In this particular image also, he's done a great job of capturing the full tonal range. You can see that there are some black blacks in here and there are also some white whites and the full gamut of gray shades between them.
The other thing that sort of amazes me, it's obviously, and we have some other examples of framing, but he obviously brought the framing in here to sort of emphasize probably the depth of the room and so on. But it's all the different little pieces that are there. There's a lot of little small things that can catch your eyes, like the flowers, the bricks, the door. Do you want a lot of interest in a photograph like this?
Absolutely. If a photo isn't interesting, then people aren't going to spend time actually looking at it. You'd like your viewers to engage and study the image, think about it, and not simply glance at it and walk away. In this particular case, you mentioned framing. He actually uses a technique where he's got multiple sets of frames. He's got the outer door frame, which you see in the foreground, and then there's a second door frame in the background. And so that tends to pull the viewer's eye toward the window. I think most people wouldn't realize that there's a fresh flower in the windowsill until much later in the photograph, and they've actually followed to that point.
Quality parks and recreation opportunities are essential for a healthy, thriving community. Studies show recreation and leisure programs reduce stress and make communities healthier, reduce crime rates, and increase local property values. The Schaumburg Park Foundation recognizes the value of maintaining an exceptional park system in Schaumburg and helping those in need enjoy recreation and leisure programs. Through our 3 fundraising events, Solstice Hop and Vine Fest, the Lynx Technology Cup, and the Holiday Bazaar, we work all year long to ensure that everyone in Schaumburg can experience health, wellness, and active fun through superior parks, programs, and amenities. Learn more or donate at schaumburgparkfoundation.org or call 847-985-2115.
This one's a little bit different from, this has probably been sent out to a professional. There are printers that'll print this, right?
Correct.
But it's probably done by somebody else. I noticed it almost looks like a painting, but this started off as a regular photograph, right?
Correct.
So how would they deal with that?
Well, as you pointed out, it started with a regular photograph. The photographer probably used post-processing software to achieve a more artistic effect, an impressionistic effect or a painterly effect. After he was satisfied with the revised image, he probably sent it to an outside firm for canvas wrap. This is actually canvas wrap. It's printed on canvas, wrapped around a wooden frame.
Okay, we're going to move down to another one here. This is a shy Vietnamese girl with her grandmother. It's done by Diane Madura. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about portrait photography, but you said this may be just street photography from the point of view that it was shot maybe in the street she found these 2 people and was able to get their photograph. But what are things that you should be thinking about when you're trying to get children and, you know, get parents and family to get a nice photograph?
Well, with children, I think they're naturals to a certain degree. Having them feel comfortable with your presence and certainly the camera is a key point. And that applies to adults as well, for that matter. I don't know if this was a portrait where it was actually posed or whether it was street photography, but either way, she did a great job of framing the image. She captured some of the personality of the people, which is a key element in portraits. You don't just want a picture of a face, you'd like to capture personality of the person.
Well, if you look at it too, look at the pants. The pants has got some images on it. Look at the grandmother and her eyes, and the little girl's looking at the camera, and it's sort of all pulled together at the right time.
It's got some great lines in it as well. As you point out, the grandmother's looking at the little girl, which tends to make you look at the little girl. But also the line in her hat tends to point toward the little girl's head.
Now, we want to give hope to everybody. And it's my understanding the next couple shots that we're going to look at are one of your new members, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. The new member here is Cindy Moore. She's not into doing titles. Untitled 2 and Untitled 3. But that's okay. This is something I wanted to cover anyway. This is working with flowers, working with close-ups, working with your garden or whatever. A lot of times you see pictures with butterflies, so you got to get in tight. What are some of the hints that we need to know about for photographing something like this?
Well, lighting is key. In both cases, she uses light to her advantage to show the texture and the color. In both cases, she was also able to capture detail, quite a lot of detail in the bottom of the flower and the petals. In one case, she shot a white flower against a white background, which has some challenges, but it makes for a very interesting photograph. In the other case, she used contrast to her advantage. She's got a nicely lit, bright purple flower against a black background. So both are visually appealing.
Okay, as long as we're here, hopefully we can walk down one more. And we talked about a little bit about this before we started, and you found some interest to it. It's called Flowers on the Mountainside by Bob Benson. And what's interesting, we came over with my wife last night and looked at it, and she says, you know, it's sort of interesting. There's only a few red flowers in there, then there's a lot of the other colors, and then you have the mountain in the background. What are some of the challenges for a shot like this?
Well, in this particular case, he wanted to capture the flowers in the foreground and the mountain in the far distance. And depth of field is a particular challenge, where you're trying to keep everything in focus over a very long distance.
And here they're trying to keep a marriage together. We have Bob's wife, Peggy Benson, and again, Icelandic church in the mist, so they must have been out traveling. I'm assuming this is in Iceland. But again, is this just being at the right place at the right time to have the fog and have the church stand out so well and have the cemetery come in, or is there a lot of other behind-the-scenes work to get a shot like this?
Well, people that simply shoot snapshots will walk up to a scene and shoot what's there. People that are really interested in photography do a lot of pre-planning. They'll determine weather conditions, the time of day. They'll look at landscape conditions or whether the foliage is blooming, things of that sort. They'll think about their shoot ahead of time, the kind of aperture, the ISO settings, the kinds of lenses they're going to use. So as you become more sophisticated, you spend more time actually thinking about the image and planning the image and studying the scene than you actually do taking the image.
Greg, we have to talk about your photography here, and I gotta think there's a story that goes along with this. We see a number of books, we see glasses, there happens to be a book on top that's open. Is there any hidden story behind this that people might be interested in?
My wife likes to collect some old books. One of these books dates back to the mid-1800s, and I happen to have a pair of my grandfather's specs from way back when. And so I set up a pop-up studio in my family room and did some lighting and shot a series of shots. And I wasn't sure whether I was going to like it or not, but I do like this image.
And I guess we're at the end of the exhibit here. This is Trillium Falls. How do you pronounce this?
Jawali.
Jawali. Lots of different greens in it and some other colors. That's a good example of combining a lot of things, right?
Lots of elements. Jawali is one of our world travelers, so she captures lots of different landscapes, if you will. In this particular case, she shot at a longer exposure to achieve that very soft feel in the waterfall and the flowing water. But she was also able to capture very saturated colors, the moss, the ferns, the trees, some of the blues in the stream. And she's got great detail. Everything is in focus, from the moss on the rock in the foreground all the way back to the trees in the distant background.
Okay, well, Greg, we started with the animals. We're going to end with an animal. This is silverback. I assume this was at the zoo also. It's another shot that we don't have time to go into very deeply, but I really appreciate you spending the time with me and hopefully giving the audience some examples of what they can be thinking about. Mm-hmm. When do you meet?
We meet every month, September through May, on the second and fourth Mondays of the month.
Okay.
We meet at the Schaumburg CRC facility, which is up on Springing-Skuth and Bodie Road.
Right.
And our meeting room is just inside the northwest entrance. Visitors are always welcome. There's no cost to come and visit us. You can view our competitions, you can view our programs. If you want to compete, though, you need to be a member.
Okay, and you said you meet twice a month. What day and what time?
These are always Mondays. The times will vary a bit. Generally, we meet at 7:30 for workshops, programs, but because we have such a great interest in competition, we need to meet a bit earlier. We actually start the program, the competition program, at 7 p.m., and all the images need to be entered by 6:45.
We hope that you enjoyed this segment. We hope that you got something out of it. I'm Burke MacDonald with Schaumburg Heartbeat, and don't forget, take time for fun.
Here at the Community Rec Center, we have WellBeats. So WellBeats is a virtual fitness system. It's an on-demand system. We have it here in the wellness studio and also in the cycle studio. You can choose from a variety of classes. The offerings will tell you what kind of equipment you need. You get that motivation from an instructor and you don't really have to think about a workout. It's extremely user-friendly. You press play, then it will be reflected on the big screen that we have both in the wellness studios and the cycle studio. And you can just run through the workout. It's like an at-home kind of video workout, but here you have all of the equipment at your fingertips, everything you need to run through any workout that you want.
Hi, I'm Burke MacDonald with Schaumburg Heartbeat. I think you're going to find a very interesting segment today. We're talking with Tony Kierna, who's with the Schaumburg Township District Library, and he works with a project called the Veterans History Project. This is a project where they interview veterans that eventually goes to the Library of Congress. Hi, Tony. Welcome to the Schaumburg Heartbeat. How did the library get involved in this project?
Well, we got involved almost through happenstance. I had not been aware of the program formally, and every now and then we have quarterly librarians meetings for genealogy, family history, local history, and I was hearing some of the other librarians that were there mention it, and so it got me piqued in my curiosity, and I decided to do some searching, and I found that there was this Veterans History Project that existed, and little by little I started taking a look at it to get an idea what was all going on. I looked at some of the videos that were out there, and pretty much from that point on, I thought, oh, this is a good idea that we as a library should be able to try and provide a service similar to what already existed out there.
Now, the library has its own studio, right?
We do have a small studio, yes.
And that's one of the things, you don't have to work with the library to do this project, but one of the advantages is you have professional equipment in there.
Yes, and that was another one of the reasons why, as I looked at some of the videos that existed at the Library of Congress, I saw probably most of them were initially made by family members. Family had some opportunity and time with their own home-based equipment. Sit down with the veteran, have a tripod set up, have the camcorder on a tripod, introduce the veteran according to how the Library of Congress likes us to do that, and they started the process. It was just at that time I saw that there was ways I believe that it could be improved in a studio setting, which is why through our library setting at our studio, I did want to take that opportunity.
Now, it's my understanding that the Library of Congress would like to have a minimum of 30 minutes, but this can run for however long the veterans are willing to work with you, and they give you some questions as sort of a feeder, but that you don't have to even ask those questions.
And that's correct. According to the Library of Congress, what they want us as interviewers or family members as interviewers to do is to shoot for a 30-minute time interval minimum. And I think that's so that they could get a full flavor of a veteran's service and his background and whatever. But you're right. Most of the videos that we've been shooting at in our studio have been running anywhere between an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. But I've seen videos at the Library of Congress that they're like 8 chapters worth of hours and hours of videos that have been recorded.
One of the things that I know you do You ask the veterans to bring in, if they have photos or any memorabilia or so on, and bring them with them, and then you set the shot in a way that you can either put it right behind you or put it up on camera, put it up on the screen so you can visually see what they're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And again, I sort of got that feeling from looking at some of the videos at the Library of Congress. For the vast majority of the videos, it was a straight up interview. You know, the family member or a librarian was maybe interviewing the person. The video was recorded, and the video as is was
But that's
sent
an
in.
important thing for the Library of Congress, because they got the recording itself with the veteran has to be unedited.
Right, that's their guidelines, that they do not want anybody adding in, changing the verbiage that was done by the veteran at that point.
All right, so once you finish this, it gets sent to the Library of Congress, and then can the veteran access it, or can the public access it? or-
Actually, we do it a little bit even better than just getting it to the Library of Congress, because part of the process is, as you've mentioned, I'll take the time, if the veteran has photographs and they're usable, we'll take that, edit it into the video, and oftentimes it's amazing how the photos that they have, without predetermining this, match oftentimes their conversation during the interview, so it actually comes up at a very appropriate time that we do that.
Okay, and then is there any other preparation that the veteran needs or information? We'll talk at the end of the program on how to get started with this. But is there anything else that they need to bring in when they come in and see you?
Actually, what I try to do, and I think this may be different than other interviews, I actually try to meet the veteran for a time period before we ever even do the interview, because I think it benefits me and it benefits the veteran, rather than doing this all on one day without ever having met the veteran. I do ask them, we talk the story, we ask their background. If they do have photographs, I do ask them to bring them in. We can review them. I like to look at it to get an idea already in advance of what would be something good that could be used for enhancing their story.
Okay, we have a couple veterans that you have interviewed, and we'd like to bring them on set and talk about what the experience was like for them.
Sure.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. We'd like to welcome to our set two veterans that are here today to work with us. One is from the Marine Corps and one is from the Army. We have William Harrod and we have Bob Matson. So let's hear their story. Bob, you're with the Marine Corps, and what was it like? What got you interested in doing this project?
Well, my wife saw the article in the Daily Herald that Tony was doing interviews with veterans. So she said, why don't you call? So I did.
How did you feel about it once you saw it? And how did your family feel about it?
Well, they were surprised because I never talked about it. I never did. But I said some things during the interview that brought a lot of questions to their mind, especially my daughter. So...
But that's fairly typical, isn't it, of the ex-veterans not wanting to talk about it?
Exactly. And I could add a lot to that, but this segment's going to be too long. But my daughter she called and she had a whole list of questions. You know, she went right down the line. She says, I didn't know you did this. I didn't know you did that. So I said, those are things I just kept to myself. And veterans are like that. We don't want to get our family involved in what we went through.
Bill, what got you involved, and how did your family react to the segment?
Well, I got involved by reading the article in the paper that Tony put in there. And I was in a program in Vietnam called the Pacification Program, and it was different than what you saw on TV in different areas, but we actually lived with the villagers and stuff like that. So I saw this as an opportunity to say, I'm going to tell you what I did and explain the program, things like that.
While we're on that, we do have a clip from that of you were embedded in a village, right?
Yeah, we lived with the villagers in their houses, and what they did is they consolidated a lot of people into one particular village, secured the village with barbed wire. The GIs lived in the home with the villagers, and then we would go out on patrols with them, show them how to shoot, how to defend themselves, things like that.
Okay, let's take a look at a tape of that was on the original tape that's at the Library of Congress.
We were the heart of the pacification program, and to my knowledge, I wasn't aware that anybody else in Vietnam did that. There's a book called A Distant Challenge, and the chapter is written called Pacification of Duck Pho by the captain who had Captain Boyd Harris. And he wrote all about it and explained everything. And more or less said, corral everybody together, let the people work, we protect them, we teach them how to fight, so when we're ready to go, they can be self-sufficient.
When your family saw that and saw the people in the villages and saw the big, at the end a big rice paddy or something there, did they have any reaction to that?
They couldn't believe people lived like that because we're used to electricity, running water, plumbing, things like that. And when they saw stuff like that, their eyes were open. And then the one picture, there's a picture of a little girl carrying a big rice cake. That was their bread. They couldn't believe that they actually ate that stuff. That's how they lived. And they were somewhat astonished.
Bob, we'll show a little bit of you. When you first started there, your first day in the field, you were actually shot down in a helicopter, right?
Yeah, quite an eye-opener for me. Yeah, it was my first day out, and our chopper was supposedly shot down, so it went down really hard. So we got everybody off.
Okay, let's take a look at that clip.
The first day I was in the field, attached to Mike 37, we were choppered into an LZ out in the field, and one of the choppers got shot down.
And again, the LZ is the landing zone.
The landing zone, yeah, and our chopper got shot down. Oh. It was minor, but it wasn't serviceable, so we went down, and we all got out, fed a 360 perimeter all the way around.
Now, how did your family react? That's got to be tough. They're hearing about you in a really pretty tough time.
Well, but you know, all they can do is ask questions, and I can only answer just so many of them, and I don't want to get into too big a detail. But yeah, it was an eye-opening experience.
How do you feel now about sitting down with Tony and getting your story out and talking about things that, as you said, you've never talked about before?
Well, it's pretty helpful. It really is. We have so many veterans out there who have PTSD, and that's one of the reasons, because they're holding everything in. I'm trying to get a lot of my stuff out. I do have PTSD, and I've had to deal with this for a while, and I have to relate my experiences to try to get them out in the open so I get used to thinking about them, because they're nightmares.
Okay. Bill, how about you? What have been other reactions to people that have seen the tape?
Well, they've been pretty positive. Just like Bob, I never talked about this before this. Never, you know. Almost 50 years for me.
Same for me.
So when they saw this video that Anthony made, I got calls and emails from people I hadn't seen in a long time, you know. And it was a good positive experience. So I think more people should do this, because in one of those articles you sent me, it's about share, because if you share something, you might open someone else's heart, and that's what we as veterans want to do.
So you find that other veterans that see this and relate to it also may get some help that they need.
Correct.
There's another short, this is a shorter clip that I want to show. Well, maybe it's not quite as short. But it shows of what you did, and you had to call in a certain helicopter. Let's look at that clip.
When they shot rockets, we knew it was going to be a battle, what have you. So we would call the gunships out of Duck Pho, and they would come, and there'd be two of them. One was called Ace of Spades. The Vietnamese were very superstitious, and Ace of Spades they didn't like.
Really?
So that particular helicopter gunship put the Ace of Spades on it. So it would come from Duck Pho, and we would be shooting, what have you, and then the helicopter would come around, and he would just completely annihilate anything around their circle. Then he would leave, and the other guy who was up here came down, and he took his place.
Okay. So they basically worked the perimeter for wherever it was, to obviously so that it wouldn't protect you guys on the inside of the perimeter.
Now you said that the Vietnamese were a little suspicious, and you brought in the Ace of Spades, I believe, helicopter.
Right.
And that worried them when they saw that coming?
Big time. Ace of Spades was a gunship, and what the Army did is they painted different things on them, and they had teeth on them, and they put the Ace of Spades, which is very superstitious to the Vietnamese. And we were in the village here, and we would periodically get hit by the Viet Cong. And when it got really bad, we'd call in Ace of Spades, and they would come in and they would just annihilate everything around our village. And that was a lifesaver. But when they saw that thing coming, they usually deed him out or walked the other way.
And again, now when your family saw that, what was their reaction?
My mother said, "Thanks for what you're doing, but don't take any chances." You know, I had gotten the Bronze Star for Valor for combat, what have you, and I sent all that stuff home. The only people know about that were my mother, my father, and my sister. "Oh, this is very nice, but please be careful. Don't try this again. Don't do this again." They were scared because what they read in the paper was not good.
Did you both write many letters when you were over there? Is that a way of helping you get through the system? Do you want to start?
I have every one of those letters. My mother kept them.
They kept them, huh?
And I didn't realize it until after she had passed, and I was going through her stuff, my sister and I found this box, and I opened it up. There's every letter I wrote from boot camp all the way through Vietnam.
And
it was amazing.
Well, at that time I was dating my wife. I didn't know she was going to be my wife. She had all the letters too.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
And do you go back and look at them ever?
Yeah, I do. And I go back and I look at things that happened, and then I look at the letter that I wrote, because I would write every maybe 2 weeks. And it was like amazing. I was saying this might happen here, and then all of a sudden, in reality, it did. I wouldn't have remembered that if it wasn't for those letters, you know, Bob?
My thing is, I never told my mother what was happening, or my father. I didn't. I didn't want them to worry.
Want them to know.
So I sugarcoated everything. But it was fine. It was really great to go back and read some of the stuff I wrote.
And you remember what was actually
Oh, yes, I remember everything.
You know, you bring up an important point. We have one other short clip here, and that's friendships in the military. Can we look at that clip?
How about friendship and camaraderie with your fellow soldiers there?
It was good because you were tight, because in combat you got to rely on your friends, what have you. You got to have your back. The only problem with Vietnam is there was a constant rotation of people. You could have come in with 6 guys, and then some of those guys would get wounded, what have you, or they go in different squads and you never see them. Okay, it's not like everybody came in and everybody left together. There was a constant. You had 30 days or 60 days. You'd come and you get somebody brand new.
Okay, you said that was, and you're looking at it, you can see how emotional you got when Tony asked you that question. That's really, really a tough thing, is trying to create a friendship, but yet knowing that you better not get too close.
I was warned about that before I even got over there from friends of mine who had already been in country, and they just said, you know what, try not to make too many friends. Yeah. Because you're going to lose those friends. And they're right. You are. So I was fortunate. I was attached to many different companies because I was with intelligence. So I'd spend maybe 2 or 4 weeks with a company, and I'd get to know everybody, but I never made close friends. Never.
Can you both tell us, or tell the audience here, what you would suggest why they should participate in this program?
Education. Know that war is not good, and this is what can happen, which is what does happen, and use this and share it and learn from it. Anything we can tell these people to help them learn and do other things to better themselves. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
The same thing?
Yeah.
Now, Tony, when they're doing this is non-cut. You can't tell them to stop in the middle of it because you got to send the whole thing in, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically all the verbiage that they conveyed during the interview, the Library of Congress does not want any of that edited.
Okay, so that and people need to be aware of the fact that when they participate in this, that it's going to go out exactly like they taped it.
Yeah, other than when we have the opportunity to include photographs, because that is part of the editing process. We're not editing the speaking part, but we're incorporating in during various parts of the interview through video editing, photographs that they provided that we were able to use. And it's really spread out throughout the entirety of a lot of the interview, which I think adds a lot more to the quality of the video itself.
Do you guys have anything else that you want to add so the people that are looking at this know about that they might not be aware of? You give me that little smirk.
I have a lot of things I could say. But when I came home, you know how we were treated. I think everybody knows how we were treated.
Yeah, it was a tough time,
it was
especially
a tough
the Vietnam War.
Now it's changed. Actually, we're getting people coming up to us and saying, thank you for your service. And they know we're Vietnam veterans. It means a lot to us, a lot. Back then, it was really tough. And we got spit at, called all kinds of names. You probably went through the same thing. And we came in the airport. I mean, it was crazy.
Tony, this has been amazing, listening to the stories and listening to what they went through. If somebody is interested in doing this, which I think their family would enjoy seeing, how would they go about making connections with you?
They can contact me directly at the library, 847-923-3390. They can connect me by even going to our library's website. Actually go to the Veterans History Project part of our website, and there's a contact me form there that I would get the same information that way too.
Now when they come, can they bring a guest with them that's in the room to give them some comfort?
Yeah, we've had the opportunity in our small studio. We do limit it to about 3 to 4 people at the most. And it depends on the veteran. The invitation is always there. If they do want to bring a family member in, a friend to come in, we do not interview that person. They're just in the background, as you said, for support and just for being there to see what's going on. And so, yeah, we would encourage that if the veteran would like to have that happen when he's doing the interview.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.